right. That was the first take. So let's just roll into it.
Hey.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Spooled, the podcast from your favorite Northern Michigan fly shop, the Northern Angler. I'm your host today, Matt Hartman, joined by my good friend, Mr. Joe King.
Hello, everybody.
We are, it feels like November today, even though it's the end of November now.
Yeah. Feels like November just started.
That north wind it's here.
Yep.
It's not nice.
It's been blowing for the last week, but today was the first time it felt legitimately cold.
It was funny. I was looking at the graph, the temp graph, because it stayed fairly warm overnight.
Right.
Did it go down today? It went down because I went outside after I got to work, and it was much cooler.
I noticed that when I left work versus when I showed up. It was pretty comfortable when I showed up, but when I left, yikes.
Yeah. I think it was even trying to snow a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I turned the windshield wipers on and
hope for the snow.
They moved snow. Yeah. First time. Seen some cars with like 1.5 inches of snow on them going to work.
Not for my house.
Yeah, well, it's like up on the hilltops.
Yeah. And up at altitude? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, up near Timberline.
A few housekeeping things before we jump into our topic today. Our topics, we got a few things. If you were, I'm going to try and kick this podcast out pretty quick. So try and stay tuned for holiday events. There's some cool deals you can take advantage of and get yourself some cool stuff, and maybe tell whoever is shopping for you this season to check out the Northern Angler or the northernangler.com, because we are a giant toy store.
Hey, fill a shopping cart, send it to them. Don't be subtle.
Is that what you do?
No, it's not.
Do you tell
it's
Kelsey?
A little aggressive. No.
Oh, you don't?
My whole family knows, like, just get a gift card.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'll burn it in 3 days.
I just tell Annie, like, she tells me, I tell her, like, yep, these are the things you can spend the money on.
I feel like part of it for us is we know what we're kind of getting, and then the other one's like a bit of a surprise, which is fun.
Right. It's you kind of have to practice restraint, not buy yourself everything this time of year, which is...
Oh, I know, man, because you identify so many needs. It's ridiculous.
Especially this time. You know, the marketing train really gets going.
Man, those sales are they're hot.
Hot sales. We got to have you record a hot sales promo.
Sounds great. Love to.
You're very branded tonight, by the way. For those of you just listening, Joe is like a matching hat. They're almost inverse of each other too. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Joe's looking for points tonight. I don't know if I've seen you trying to hold.
Where's the beep?
I don't remember. Is it this one? I'm just going to hit buttons.
No, don't.
Bear with. No. It could be bagpipes. We don't know.
God, my face is so red right now. I can feel the blood.
Just breathe it. All right. That's enough of that shenanigans.
I tried a little too hard. I was like, oh, there's a yellow slash here. I'll put a yellow hat on and it'll look nice.
It looks great. I don't know why you're taking it negatively, but it's...
Because I've always struck. I can't say this because my students are going to hear it and then they'll make fun of me in the morning.
It's true. Anyways, so our topic tonight is some tips and kind of, I believe in this roadmap to become a better angler. And there's things that Joe, I know, has identified in his journey, if you will. And there's things I can point to in my journey that I think were big footholds in getting up that hill to improving. And I'm going to point out, like, I don't think either of us consider ourselves just like expert anglers. We happen to be guys with microphones and cameras, and we appreciate that this is a sport that we will always be learning more of.
Yeah, and probably learning more for the majority of my life.
But that's why the sport's cool. Is you're not just going to get up and plateau and be like, "Yep, I'm the best." And
if you do, you're just not doing interesting things anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the fun for me, is like trying new things, learning from the people that are very good.
Totally.
At them.
The trying new things is that's the best.
So that's our topic today. We've got a few tips. We're just gonna. I don't know how many tips yet, so we're gonna just go for it.
I got a slew of them.
He's got wow, that is a lot on your sticky note. Yeah. Before we get there, listener questions and hot takes. We're bringing them back because I think that's fun. I think we like hearing from all of you who are listening, and there's a lot of things we forget to discuss and we forget to talk about, and that's why we're doing this. So hopefully you like these, and we like talking about it because it's what we talk about at work all day, actually. So
hey, if you don't like them, send us some questions you do want to hear.
Yeah, there you go. Simple as that. You can reach us Instagram, email, or if you're watching this on YouTube, throw a comment on there too. So, and by the way, you can watch select episodes, most of the episodes that we do here at the shop. You can watch these right on YouTube. It's a pretty good deal.
It's pretty great.
Pretty good deal. So, speaking of, I'm going to stare at the camera real quick and make sure we're.
Oh, I thought you were trying to speak directly.
No, we're good.
To the viewers. I was going to turn.
Yes, I should speak. We should.
I was going to turn dramatically.
Turn to the viewers.
Hello,
Thank you for watching.
Hey, big thanks to you for watching and making sure we're not just sitting here staring at each other, talking into mics for absolutely nothing.
It's because of you.
It is.
All right. Listener questions today. When is it time to replace a fly line? That is a really, really common question we get in the shop. And I think there are a few things that are telltale signs that it's just time. And for me, the number one thing is if your fly line's not operating like it used to. I mean, there's very few things that are as wonderful as a brand new fly line. Like just sending that cast out there, mending, smooth line running, floating high. If your line's starting to sink, if you're finding cracks, if you're feeling imperfections, it might be time to replace your fly line.
Yeah, and I think one of the problems with doing tips is that they're going to kind of go into each other. And so at the risk of that, I'd say before you think about replacing it, clean it. And preferably you've been in or will quickly, after listening to this, get in the habit of keeping your lines pretty clean, because then you keep a good tab on when it's clean, how is it performing, because you'll notice that when a line's pretty new and you clean it, it'll bounce back to almost new,
right?
Like performance. Mm-hmm. But after a while, it's kind of doesn't matter how much you clean it, that ceiling on performance is going to get lower and lower and lower. But yeah, that like the shooting thing is a big one for me. And then the cracks. Like we get a lot of customers that come in and say, I've had this line for 10 years. I don't know if it needs replaced. Can you take a look at it and let me know? And sometimes you can see the core through it. Sometimes it just looks like little cracks, or you can feel a little bit of like grooves or grain kind of in the line. And that's usually a telltale.
Yeah. I mean,
when in doubt, just replace
I've
it.
seen some lines that are just like, you can't possibly be fishing this, right?
Yeah.
It's stuck together, and it has to be from 1960 or something.
Right.
You know, it's not that there's anything wrong with that.
But I've been there where it's like, you don't want to spend a bunch of money on a new line. You just keep using it. And then you kind of, once you replace it, you go, oh man, why did I wait that long to get a new line?
Yep. And I think let's hit on a timeline as well. So that's the other part of the question I get all the time is, how long should a fly line last? There's no clear definition. It does not exist. I'm sorry. It all has to do with how much you use it, how hard you use it, how well you take care of it, and what you're using it for. There's like a Skagit head, for example, which if you've never seen a spay line, it's like casting a garden hose. It's thick as can be. It's awesome. Like you feel like a superhero casting them. However, because it's such a thick line, it's way more durable.
Right.
I mean, a Skagit head may last you 10 years of consistent use. It may not, if it gets stepped on someone's wading boot, and just ground into, there's so many factors, and it's just not fair to put a timeline. Guides, they'll replace their lines twice a year sometimes.
Right.
I mean, that seems crazy for a normal consumer, but they want you to have the best performance out of the line. So there's no hard and fast rule for how long a line's going to last.
For me, generally, like I try to keep, I'm pretty hard on gear, but I try to take care of it at home, like clean it and make sure that it's in a good place. It's not getting wear and tear. Try to put some slack into it so it's not getting bent around guides a ton. In the winter, like make sure they're cleaned and ready to go before you store them. And I feel like I'm pretty disappointed if I don't get 2 full seasons out of it.
Yeah.
Out of a line, especially like the lines that I use a lot.
Sure.
Like I want to get 2 years out of them.
I'd love to get 2 years.
It doesn't always happen, but
the years the lines I use when I'm guiding, man, they go fast.
Yeah.
They go so fast. And part of that's, no one's going to take care of stuff at the level you expect them to sometimes, right? And which I'm not worried about a line not lasting me a whole season. Like that's part of the deal. Like that doesn't bug me.
Yeah.
But the lines that I use a ton, they get stepped on and rolled and twisted, and it's just part of the deal. I have noticed that more expensive lines, they last longer. It's true. That's not just a sales pitch. They're made to be more durable.
Right.
Part of the deal.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if I'm paying that much money to go on a guide trip, the last thing I want to do is feel cautious. In the boat, like I want to focus on fishing, and so that's going to mean that I'm stepping on lines. Whereas, with our own gear, we might be a little bit more cognizant. I'm going to watch my line management a little more, but I'd be lying if I told you I didn't step on it regularly.
I step on my lines every once in a while. It happens. It's part of the deal.
I just don't know how it's possible that I get line wrapped around one leg as often as I do. Especially like when you're casting and walking at the same time. I'm like, how did I lasso myself again?
What are the physics and the chances of this happening every single time?
Apparently I'm an anomaly because all the time. All the time.
All right, we're going to jump into hot takes, and I'm going to throw a curveball at Joe because I'm going to change the hot take that we agreed on.
Funny thing about curveballs, Matt, is I can't hit them. Well, let's
it's all about eye-hand coordination, my friend, and patience for the curveball. We're going to stick with the fly line theme.
Okay.
Hot take. Welded loops are better than a nail knot. Bump, bump.
Until they break. Yes.
I agree. And
man, it depends.
It depends. It does. But I want to hit on something. I watched something. I'm not going to say who, what, when, or where about this, oh no, welded loops are not the way to go. You need to be using a nail knot. And I'm sorry. No, I disagree because maybe I have a negative point of view. I'm sorry if that's the case, but most of us are a little bit lazy. And if I have the option, and if I need to change a leader out, okay, and I have a welded loop versus I need to get my tool and tie a good nail knot and that whole thing and run through the knot program and cut into my fly line, by the way, and expose the core to water. That's a whole nother, I'm not going to get too fired up. Why wouldn't you go with the convenience thing of just, I'm going to push these together, take the old leader off, put a new leader on, and go fish?
Yeah, I don't know if that was done with the design of generating controversy and online engagement or something, but man, for fly fishing
or to sell nail knot tools, I don't know. I'm
great,
happy to sell you one, by the way.
The great nail knot tool conspiracy of 2021 or whatever it was. Yeah, I messed around with that a little bit, and I felt like on a purpose-built line, we're probably only going to do one thing. I didn't mind it. It does go through the guides easier, like on like a bass, like floating line. Like I'm only going to be doing one or two things with that.
Sure.
So I'm not going to change the leader, and the leader is going to be pretty heavy butt section, so I'm not worried about that running out. By the time the butt section runs out, I'm going to be replacing the line. So I messed around with it. I have had welded loops break, or like they cut a little bit.
I'm not here to tell you welded loops are perfect. I'm not here for that.
But like the casting difference between them,
Come on.
If it's 1.5%, it's probably an exaggeration of difference.
And I think it's use case, because for me, the only time that would like really affect my fishing or anything I guide for or anything I'm aware of is when you're consistently working the leader into the guides.
Right.
Which is, for me, like if you're working the leader into the guides, like, oh, I'm sorry, like you're working the leader into the guides to land your fish, maybe? Like, is that the concern?
Especially like fishing alone, fishing alone with a long leader. Like if I'm doing something where I got to be delicate, or like jig streamer type stuff where I've got a long leader, the guide definitely comes, or the leader comes into the guide pretty much every time I have to land a fish.
Okay.
So for that, I have noticed it gets hung up a little less, because like, I feel like no matter how good of a perfection loop you put in, it's going to get caught more than a nail knot and blood knot. So that's the one application where I've tried it and I said, yeah, I'm probably going to, like a 6-weight floating bass line.
I do have some lines with nail knot time, and it's simply because I've had that line long enough where the welded loop has started to, the cores become exposed.
Right.
But the line floats awesome. It shoots great. So
I just like, I don't know. Sometimes I get frustrated with this aspect. Like on one hand, it's one of my favorite parts about fly fishing, and on the other, it's just endlessly infuriating to me. It's like, guys, we got better stuff to do with our lives and with our fishing than like to worry about these tiny little differences. And sure, if you're going to be a competition angler, or you're fishing somewhere where it's super techy or difficult, great. Otherwise, like, who gives a crap? Just go out and go fish.
Right.
And probably most of us aren't good enough casters to notice the difference in how a nail knot versus a welded loop fishes.
I'm probably not.
So go fishing.
Go fishing.
And who cares? And relax.
Yeah. I just think that I would rather one of our customers has an easier time changing their leader than not. Like, I can't tell you how many people over the years of me being here where someone comes in and they hand me their setup, and I'm like, were you just fishing this yesterday? And they're like, yeah. It was weird. All the fish kind of swam away. I'm like, well, you have a 3-foot leader. Well, yeah, I didn't want to change it. I didn't, it's a lot of work to tie that nail knot. And I tie nail knots professionally, right? I mean, that's literally my job, is to tie knots for you. And it's not fun. Let's be honest. It's not fun to tie a nail knot. Is it a great knot? Is it a smooth? It is. Not when someone's standing over you watching you do it, though.
And it dog legs real bad at the end, and it curves down and you're just like biting it, trying to straighten it out.
Like one of those barrels jumps over.
Yes.
Oh.
Or you have like a gap in the back one because you didn't pull it through tight enough before you cinched it. Oh.
Or you could just loop to loop change it. I don't know. Gosh. So hot takes. Curious to hear what everyone thinks about that. This is not meant to be, to cut down what other people think, their opinions.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Absolutely it is. Stop worrying so freaking much.
Just know what I think. And I want this to be easier for all of you fishing.
Yeah.
That's all. Like, you shouldn't have to you shouldn't have to tie a nail knot.
I can't let it go. If you're going to put a nail knot into the end of your line and then throw a perfection loop into the, like, what's the point? Like, you're only repairing a welded loop. Like, if you're cutting off a welded loop to then put a nail knot and a perfection loop into it, I'm sorry. God, I'm a hypocrite. Like the rest of us. Yikes. Anyway.
Hot takes. I'm so glad hot takes are back. So glad. Yeah. Because we come in so like fired up to our normal topic, which is great.
Yeah.
So
that was a good curveball.
That was good. Sorry to do that, but you handled it well.
For all the baseball fans, I think it went all on that one.
You went to the other field? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not something I did very much.
That's okay. All right. Let's jump into our main topic, the roadmap. And this is something we'll come back to, because we'd never be able to talk about all the things that make us better anglers and our friends better anglers. And it's just things that were paramount to me, to Joe, that really, like, it connected the dots, is the way I think about it. So we're going to try and categorize things a little bit. I talk about at the vise on the water and things we can do at home. Just simply, I mean, we're coming into downtime, and there's
it's not downtime. It's preparation time.
It is. It's and when planning can be half the fun, I think. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
We got to go to the weapons factory.
Was that all right? We won't touch on that.
Tying weapons.
I thought you were talking about grailing.
Oh, no. Nope.
All right. Do you want to start, Joe?
Yeah. Do you want to start on the water?
Sure. Let's start on the water.
Where do you want to start at?
For me, all right. First tip for me for along the road to becoming a better angler is number one is just being stubborn and going to the river. And this was for me along learning fly fishing. It was really where I was living out in Utah as I was learning this sport. I didn't really have a lot of people I knew. I had moved to a new state, moved to a new town. I didn't know people. This became something I could do by myself or with people, and just going every chance I get and understanding that I can learn from the river, even if I'm not catching fish.
Yeah.
Was so fun. And it made it so rewarding when I saw a fish or like a fish came to look at my fly, or, even if I hooked a fish and didn't land it, I just came back on cloud nine, back to the room I was renting.
Yeah.
And I think you can do that throughout the year and just go and see the river, how it changes. It's different every month, every week, every day. And it's something, unfortunately, I've seen some anglers where they expect to level up, but they don't go fish all the time. And that, I want you to take that, I'm not criticizing. I just want you to, go and try and make mistakes and goof off and screw it up, because that's the best way to learn.
Totally.
And at least that was huge for me. I had a very formative year where I lived by myself out west. It was awesome. I went to work, and then I thought about fishing at night. I went to work, and then I had my weekend, and I fished all weekend, every chance I got. And it was obsessive, but it also filled some time, and it was great for mental health too. So for me, that's the on the water thing that took me to the next step, I think, or to the next level. How about you?
I would agree with that. I think in all of these realms, especially on the vise and at the water, and even at home to a degree, that consistency, just getting out consistently, working on, it's really any hobby, any craft, have to do that.
Right.
You ready to get a little heady?
Ready.
All right. So, on MLK Day, I talk about the letter from Birmingham Joe, one of my favorite philosophy things. MLK wrote in his letter from Birmingham jail in response to other pastors that wrote him when he was in the jail. He said something to the effect of there's nothing positive or negative in the passage of time, that the passage of time is neutral and irrelevant. It's all in how you use it. And for some reason, it feels like a lot of anglers think, well, because time has passed, I should be getting better, to your point of,
sure,
well, my skills are going to advance. This is another season down.
Right.
It's maybe not.
Maybe
It
not.
depends on how you use it. So yeah, that consistency. And one thing, be stubborn, but in tactics, be flexible, because I've learned a lot in, you read and hear oh, well, if you're looking for this fish, it's going to be this part of the river, this piece of, of water. And sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're in a different part of the river. They might be mid-river, and, you got to scoot over to the bank and fish to the center of the flow, or, you do what everybody else does in a boat and go right down the middle and pound the banks.
Yeah.
So be flexible with that, and don't be so attached to success, because success will show up once you give enough looks and start to figure things out. Listen to the advice of other people, but advice is not rules.
Right.
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 You should bend it and try to pick things up on your own.
Sure.
For me, the biggest thing here in Michigan was reading water.
Oh, it is tough.
It's totally different. And we've talked about this before
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
podcast, but that was probably the biggest thing is reading water and understanding how to read structure, color changes in Michigan, because you don't have as much of the current change. You do.
No, but everything's so
places.
subtle.
Right.
Everything's so subtle here. I was out yesterday swinging flies, and we were laughing about some of these spots. It's like, oh yeah, do you see that, like the most subtle little seam line in the middle of the river that's just totally flat? That's where we find fish.
Yeah.
Because it's different. Whereas out west, it's like, oh yeah, behind that rock, in front of the rock, side of the rock, behind that log. Okay, great. You know, it's, I don't know. I love the challenge of that, but it can be frustrating too, where it's just not, served up in the same way. So, and there's a lot more resources now to help anglers understand that. I remember moving back here and be like, oh, like I couldn't find any info about where to learn that. And there's some great books now out there about, understanding, or even DVDs about understanding the water in Michigan and the Midwest. Yeah,
because most of the stuff is written for pocket water.
Right.
Or some variation of that, or like limestoners or something like that.
It's like classic river structure. We got head of a pool, we got a run, we got riffles, we got all sorts of stuff, tailouts.
Those things are here too. They just look way different.
So different. It's maddening.
Yeah.
And that's, but I like what you said about, kind of embrace, don't be totally measured on success.
Yeah.
And I think that's like,
because then you're going to quit.
Exactly.
Because it's going to suck in the beginning.
Right. It's going to suck. It's going to hurt. It's like,
go look at the birds, go look at the trees.
It's a
try
marathon,
really hard,
not a sprint,
relax.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a long-term game. And, I think those are the customers, those are the anglers that I see get the most enjoyment out of this sport, is that, once they've figured something out, once they've figured the dry fly game, they're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
It's not okay, I'm at the top. Great. I'm just going to stay here. No, they're so hungry. They're so hungry for different, problem solving situations. And that's what this sport is. So, yeah.
One thing that I've found myself getting really excited about, that just in the last 2 years, I feel like I've spent enough time here where I'm starting to tune into things. And I know I've mentioned this before in the past too, of especially in the shoulder seasons, in the spring and in the fall, if you're out there fishing and you have a good day, look at what else is happening. What are the birds doing? What stage are the leaves at? What plants are starting to pop up in the spring? And try to connect those like multi-layer environmental changes.
Context.
Environmental context.
Ooh.
That's fancy.
I'm gonna write this down. I'm gonna write this down. That's
Dude, that is actually pretty solid. Not to toot.
Hold on, I write slow.
No, it's okay.
Holding.
Okay, so then
no, that's great. I mean, there's so many of the anglers I've been lucky enough to meet and learn from have told me, I ask like, well, what's the water temp you look for? What kind of conditions? Like, no, we just look for this plant on the side of the river to start blooming, and then we go fish this.
Right.
I'm like, what? And they're like, you can measure the water temp every day or whatever, or like, oh, the trillium are out, well, we go do this, or, like, that's awesome. It's so cool. Like, I think sometimes we overthink things.
Totally.
And there's signs right in front of us that are markers that we can, gauge when it's time to do certain
Pressure's
things.
at 31.
Yeah.
We're in a waning gibbous. All right, it's game time.
It's the window. It's
Which
on.
it might be, but whatever. Still going to make fun of you guys. So to go micro level instead of that big like environmental, it sucks because, dude, I want to be angling Rambo out there. Like, you think I want to slow down? Absolutely not. I want to be in a mud bank covered and my eyeballs just come out of the mud bank right before I make a cast at a fish. But slow down and watch. That has been extremely helpful. Like, if you're going to tie a fly on and you're out of the rhythm, take a seat, go find a nice log, sit down, pick a fly, throw it on the foam patch on your vest or pack or whatever, just sit there for a couple of minutes and just watch.
Don't be in a rush.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fish while you're walking.
Oh, that's one of my favorites. Too. I remember when I started to do that, I started that out west. And I was I always waited. I was always in a hurry to fish the run in the middle of the river.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, gosh, maybe I'll try, casting closer to the bank, even though I'm right there. And I caught fish doing it. I was like, holy cow, how many fish are right here?
Yeah. Or you even see them, like, whatever.
Along that, you said you wanted to be fishing Rambo.
Totally.
For me, something that was, I'd say, probably one of the most difficult things to deal with on the water was to pare things down and just say, today I'm just going to throw streamers. Today I'm just going to go throw nymphs. Today and I think I like gear. It's a problem. And I just feel comfortable with more gear. And I've talked about before, like the insecurity of the fly box. Taking 10 boxes. I refuse to be without the fly that works.
It's the weighted blanket of fishing.
Yeah. And I spend so much time hauling all this crap to the river and so much time in indecision and second guessing that I didn't use the day appropriately and learn from it. Totally. Even if I'm not successful again, where, even just fishing a dry, where no fish are coming up, you can learn about, if I do this with my mend, and you can do these little things that I still struggle to do that to this day, where I'm just like, nope, today it's June, I'm going to fish only dries. Like that's sometimes the problem with having a boat is you can load everything down,
right?
And I'm going to take this rod, and like, look like I got 20 rods in the boat, and really, I'm not doing anything well. Right. I'm doing everything not super well because my attention is pulled in so many directions instead of just focusing on doing something, because you can convince fish to eat a lot of different ways.
And I don't know, in a boat though, I feel like I want all that stuff because when I'm with other people, like I want to catch fish. I want to have fun with my friends.
Yep.
And catching fish is part of it.
Right.
And sometimes there are those days where you just got to figure out what method is going to work. Personal fishing, I think, on a whim, I got like a very small fish pond chest pack.
Yeah.
That was the best thing I bought in a long time.
I have the same one.
Because
it's a great pack.
The single box fishing days, I'm really bad. I don't know. I don't know that I'm ever going to be that good at like only dries, only streamers. I know I'm never going to do only nymphs unless it's the dead of winter because
I know.
No thanks. But like just one box, like mostly dries. Maybe I have a couple of micro streamers in there just in case, just to like remind myself that there are fish that live here and I get something reacting. But that's been very helpful, is to go with one box, limit options, and just focus on.
There's so much freedom in that.
Yeah.
Like until you do it, it just seems, I don't know. It seems
limiting.
It does, but it's honestly freeing.
Yes.
It is.
Because like you feel trapped. Anybody that's fished with me in a boat knows, like, I don't know what anybody else is thinking. I know I'm very self-conscious of it. Like I'm switching flies every 2 or 3 minutes, like constantly, because I'm trying to figure stuff out.
Right.
But whenever I have a one box day, I'm probably going to switch between 3 to 5 flies. And that's it.
Yep.
Every now and again you get those days where you're like, holy crap, I got to throw this whole box to even have a prayer at getting something to react.
I've done there. I've been there.
But most days it's only a few.
Yeah. Any other? I think we jump now to another category.
I gotta do a couple lake things.
Sure. Yeah. Hit them.
So like warm water stuff, because we don't have a ton of lake trout opportunities here. It's mostly warm water.
Sure.
One thing, especially with larger lakes, smaller lakes, you can scout with flies, but fish gear and A/B test with gear. That's been very helpful, especially if you tie your own flies.
Yeah.
Go out with gear that you know is
So you're
working.
saying go fish spin stuff. Go fish
casting.
Yeah. And just kind of use what you can learn from gear and apply it to flies.
Especially if you want to consider giving up fly fishing because you realize how much more effective gear.
Effectiveness, Joe. Come on.
If we wanted to catch fish,
I'd just go throw crawlers and just crush fish.
100%.
I'm sure.
But as we all know, there's no art.
All about
Actually,
aesthetics, Joe. All about aesthetics.
How dare you?
Sorry, inside jokes there. It was the right time I had to do it.
Worms ain't pretty. No, but it's very helpful to just learn lakes and then learn what you're doing at the vise and with retrieves on the fly that is similar to, different than, how the fish react differently. You learn a lot, I think.
What's cool is I have to imagine you also learn the limitations of some gear.
Yeah.
And that's where you can fill the gaps with flies,
Totally.
because movement in a fly is so much more organic,
Right.
and more realistic often than you can get out of any gear, right?
Most, yeah. Yeah, I mean...
But I have to imagine, like, where, like, the places you're more efficient as a gear angler often in getting your presentations to where they need to be.
Yeah.
So it's this weird, like, pull between the two.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, the undulation of natural materials in flies and the hang of flies is going to beat anything.
Yeah.
Most things that gear can do, you
Sure.
can compare it. But just like erratic reaction and covering water, you can't, and depth, you
Right.
can't compete with gear, but you do learn a lot fishing gear.
Okay.
That helps, I think.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd say like organization on the water, but that'll kind of come at the vise, because recycle. There's a lot of things that you can use from the materials that we buy, and hooks and bead boxes and stuff like that, to
Right.
make it so that you're carrying less weight and you're more organized.
Takes time, though.
It does.
It takes time to pare things down and know what you need,
But then
and what
like,
you don't need.
Don't stop experimenting, because you switch one or two
That's
things
the
up.
fun
and
of this, right?
the best.
Like, I think some of the best anglers, like, not to just tap Russ on these, but some of the best anglers, the best tires, they know it's worth showing fish different things and constantly trying different things
Yeah.
and innovating. It's worth it. Plus it's stimulating for you as an angler or for a tire to try new
It's
stuff.
so much fun.
It's a riot. I
Yeah.
love it. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. We jump into, what do you want to do next?
Let's do at home.
At home.
And then we'll do the
Home
vise
life.
last.
Yes.
Yeah, so at home, my concept here is after the trip, and then especially in the off season. And I got two things here.
Let her up.
Take care of your gear. Like,
What?
you can be hard on it, go bushwhacking, beat the heck out of your waders.
Go hard on it. It's good for fly shops. Yes.
If you have a blowtorch or a sharp knife, just burn the
Anything
way, burn
hot.
holes.
Please carry pocket knives.
If you've never put put a cigarette out on a pair of waders, you should give it a whirl.
So satisfying.
Pretty fun. Those holes just are a nice addition to the
Sarcasm, everyone. Sarcasm.
A little wader patina for you. No, like turn your waders inside out. Nobody likes smelling like a freaking Sam Squanch foot.
My
Out on the
car smells like, I've kept in my car the past few days
Waders.
wet waders, and they smell gnarly.
Oh.
It's just time for a wash.
Yeah.
By the way, did you know you can wash waders, people?
Hey.
I think that's shockingly news for some folks, is you can wash your waders. And
But what's going to happen to the seams, Matt?
I'm not worried about that. What do you mean? What's
I always feel like
So I don't have a front load. I know a lot of the wader companies recommend a front load washer.
right.
I just fill up my Rubbermaid like a tote.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I mean, I have the technology. I have a tote. I have some water. I have some soap. And just like, I actually use the wader itself to kind of just,
Sure. Yeah.
for, you're just looking to clean some of that. I tell people all the time, like, these membranes are like skin.
Right.
If you don't wash them, they get clogged up. They don't operate as well. They get the funk. It smells like my car.
Yep.
Like, it's bad.
It is very illuminating to listen to some of the membrane manufacturers talk about how they work, how to care for them.
It's really cool.
Yeah,
it's
super
worth
cool.
learning about what you're investing in too.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, then it makes sense. Like, oh, that's why this costs this much money.
But it's not the only thing you can
pretty cool.
wash. We talked about this in, kind of the
Hot
window
take,
replace a fly line.
Yeah.
You can wash your fly lines.
Yeah.
If I had magically more time, I would probably wash my fly line a few times a year.
Yeah. Yep. Wash the guides at the end of the season. Get that gunk off of there. The biggest one though, and I had this conversation with Ted at a school, and I think he brought up a good point. However, I still am firmly of the opinion that at home, especially in the winter, get one of those Practicasters. However, he's right. You cannot judge the quality of your cast based on how it lays down on the ground. I don't think it's accurate because you could throw a trash cast and it'll lay out pretty darn straight. However,
and they still catch fish.
Catch my dog, I tell you that. But I think you can learn a lot about loop control and when you aerialize them.
And for me, like a practice rod too, I taught myself a lot of things with the practice rod when I was out west, and I taught myself spay casting essentially with it. But I think the key part of it is knowing what to feel.
Yes.
In storing energy.
Yep.
And that was huge. And you learn how to test the limits and push the limits and push a rod to what it can handle doing that. And
snap it. Do it too loose.
It's
Get
awesome.
It just right.
And it's a friendly, fun thing to play with too.
Everybody talks about timing. I don't think it's a timing thing. I think it's a feel thing. And once you develop that feel and what you're looking for in your thumb and in your forefinger.
So many variables. If it were all timing, I think you'd have to use a consistent length of line,
right?
A consistent leader, consistent tip. Well,
there's a formula.
It changes so much.
37.7 meters. You've
right.
Wait
for let me check my chart.
3.72 milliseconds.
Do you not have a river abacus? Do you not? Because I do.
I've known them as hydro abacus. I don't know what you're referring to as a river. River
you're
abacus?
Branding it. That's
yeah. So
coming 2024 Christmas. The river abacus.
2025 is the lake abacus. Totally different.
Totally different. Oh, why do people put up with us?
Who knows? Our own mothers probably wondering the same thing.
My mom does not listen to this.
Yeah,
She'd be like,
either.
"What is this?
Like, you freaking loser!
Wow.
What are you doing on your weeknights?"
This is
organization. I think is a big thing. Like knowing where everything is.
Oh man, if you can just buy some cheap shelves and come up with which is the complete opposite of my garage, as Joe knows.
You should see my basement at the end of the season.
I know, but
I can't wait for January to start putting my life.
What I say about organization is it's something we all strive for, but rarely achieve.
Oh no, I achieve it very regularly for 5 months out of the year, and then April hits and it starts going downhill again.
I seem to never achieve it. It's a time thing. Is what I blame it on. It's my excuse.
Okay.
But if you can get 2 shelves and have a spot exactly where your waders go, where your rods go, it's that model of consistency, even in organizing. Because how many times does it happen where I text you at 8:00 at night, oh, do you have tomorrow off? Can we go fish? And you'd say yes, and it's just a mad dash to gear up.
It's got to be at least 40% of the time that we go fishing.
At least. Are you kidding?
I mean, it's
Well, and then we spend 3 hours trying to figure out where we're going, and then we change in the morning.
You off tomorrow? Yes. Do you want to go fish? Yeah. What time are we meeting? 7. All right, we'll figure out where we're going at between now and then.
It's a game of who falls asleep first.
Yeah, it's honestly, we're either meeting at the shop or Chum's Corner.
Yeah, that's true.
And then everything else folds from there. I don't have a ton of stuff from home. I just got to get on my soapbox about Practicaster in it as a means to an end of being consistent year round.
Yep.
Which is a great transition to the vise. Guess what I'm going to say there? You have anything else for home before
No, not off the top of my head. I'm sure listeners, again, if you guys have some good tips, we love tips. I'm here to learn. You're here to learn. Maybe
this is for you.
So, we're going to go, we'll probably revisit this topic in the future and come up with some new tips for people. And, I don't have anything else for home.
No, it's pretty quick.
Let's go to the vise. That's an easy one.
Stay organized, stay clean, stay practicing. Vise, tie year round. That's my first tip, which I know I've said here before.
I need to follow that tip.
I didn't this year. I tied I was on the
I think
road
we
a lot.
both tied less this year than
Yeah. Yeah. But it was a weird year. I just like tying in the winter only, you got 3 months to make headway. And even if you don't,
If you're going to tie in the winter, you better go heavy and tie everything you need.
yeah, like good luck with that. Having everything you need for every river, every condition, every
Some
species.
people have that
chase,
program. Like, good for you.
Yeah. Have fun chasing your trout all year. I'm just kidding. I don't know why I don't know why I'm trying to be fake elitist about fishing for dumb fish.
For me, we're just to refocus. We're on the roadmap to becoming better anglers, and these are tips that have helped us along the way.
Mm-hmm.
For me, let's just talk about tying in general.
Yeah.
Because tying flies, for me, connected so many dots.
Yes.
It forced me to have a better understanding of insects on the water.
Yes.
It forced me to have a better understanding of what trout are looking for in patterns, which helped me pick out flies at a fly shop. It helped me understand what flies are in the bins at the shop. So, I mean, it just
different actions.
Like it helped me understand what's in my box and what to pick when. And I think a lot of people look at it just as this, one small teeny piece. For me, it's huge.
It's a big key because
it's a really, really big key.
Like if you're looking at the caddis section, there's 8 to a dozen different styles of caddis bodies just in our shop.
If you're looking at the mayfly section, strap in.
Listen, that's why I didn't even go there. Cause like, I feel like if you don't have a tying basis or you've just like, you nerd out,
you don't know what you're looking
fly
at.
Construction. Exactly. And
which
so
is,
you don't know
trust
the application.
Hopefully you have a good shop to go to where people are willing to, tell you, oh, it's this time of year. You should be fishing a hackle stacker, with a shuck off the back. And you're like, what the heck is he talking about?
Did you just call me?
Yeah, exactly. But I think it ties so many things together. Not to push a book plug at all, but Dave Hughes' Handbook of Hatches was such a big foothold for me, where he and he also and this ties into tying because his first, I think it's even in the intro, and he says, trout do not speak Latin. So don't get so caught into insane details of it needs six segments and 3 tails and, this many millimeters for this.
You can't fish it on a welded loop.
But what it does is he so well covers, and it's still applicable today to fly styles for mayflies, fly styles for caddis, all the way through the life cycles. And if you can find something like that, it doesn't have to be that. For me, tying everything it just helps.
Yeah.
Learning something about fly tying. It'll help all your fishing, whether it's bass fishing, steelhead fishing, trout fishing, everything.
Yep.
So, all right, there's my plug. Go ahead.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that stuff more.
Yep.
Because you have 3 or 4 more months out of the year that you're tuned into it and thinking about it and different ways to approach it. And even if you don't end up tying everything, like we said, it helps you with the bins. If I don't really tie a lot of hoppers, I'm going to buy those.
Yeah.
But understanding foam types, foam construction, ways to layer hair, all that kind of stuff, that helps me understand this is going to ride high, this is going to ride low, this is going to be a good one for twitching, this isn't going to be a good one for twitching, that sort of stuff.
Sure.
Which is save you a lot of money.
It does.
Tying doesn't, but making the good choices.
Well, we've talked about that. Yes. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Other things that have improved my angling at the vise.
I think it's like just
we're gonna have to come back to a whole a few tying tips episodes, because I think Joe and I just love tying. It's a creative outlet for me. It's very satisfying. It's very creative and fun and goofy, but
for me it's the aspect of fly fishing that I feel the most ownership over. Like I know that's my creation.
I really like how you put that.
Yeah, thanks.
There's a lot of ownership there over your box, how you organize it, how you make a plan. And if you're a tyer out there, I'd encourage you, make yourself a tying plan for the winter. If you're planning on tying this winter, next winter, like sit down. You don't have to get weird about it and make a color-coded graph or
I was already there with
spreadsheet.
tying plan.
But grab a hatch chart. Grab and sit down, spend one evening not tying at the beginning. It's going to be tough. Spend one evening not tying, write down the places you want to go, the hatches you want to fish, or the fish you want to target, and then identify the flies you're going to want. Look in your boxes, see where those gaps are, identify what you need to tie, and then make a plan. Like this week, I'm going to tie hackle stacker borchers and 12, 14, 16s. I'm only going to do that this week.
Yeah.
Because tying's so tough, you get pulled in so many directions.
Yes.
Ooh, shiny. Ooh, that's cool.
Yep.
Oh, I want to tie that swing fly. And that's when my desk looks its worst.
Same.
But if I stick to that plan, it's not as satisfying always in the moment. But gosh, when the season starts and I don't want to be worried about, I don't have this pattern. You look in your box and you're like, I got the exact thing for this. Boom. There we go.
Pretty sweet to be like, oh man, I don't have any black jigs.
Yeah.
Then you sit down for 3 nights and
I don't
just tie
have
black
any
jigs.
henny spinners. How do I not have henny spinners with an egg sac? Oh, what was I thinking? But I have 6 dozen different mahoganies or whatever. Whoa, dang it. Like, how did I miss that? And that's where, I think forcing yourself to sit down and, understand what you have time for the next season and, be realistic with yourself. Sometimes I tie things that I don't need. Let's be honest. All the time I tie things I don't need.
I mean, you get a good idea. You really, really, really want to learn a pattern and then tie a dozen of them and fish 2 of them over the next couple of years.
Right.
I was going to say, set a deadline. Like, I'd like to have this dozen flies done by here, and then get ready to disappoint yourself because it's the winter. You want, I don't know, I want always.
But leave some time in there for and I used to do this. I used to be much better where it was I'd set certain days. Okay, I'm going to tie 1 hour a night these few days. And then, it's Sunday. I'm going to watch football and tie something weird. I could do whatever I want. I'm going to tie a musky fly. I'm going to do whatever. But then back to the weekdays, I treat it like a work week almost.
Oh, that's a good, I like that. Yeah.
So
that's a good
because
idea.
if you don't have that freedom to do something creative,
you're always going to tie musky flies.
you're just gonna be like, well, screw this. I'm not gonna tie borchers every night of the week or Robert Chilla Drakes. I want to do something fun.
Yeah.
But then the season comes around and you're like, yeah, I should have tied more of those.
Yeah. One other thing too, I feel like the most common criticism of mass produced flies is hooks.
Yeah.
Especially with dries.
Yep.
And I feel like, I don't know if it'll make you a better angler, but it'll make you look like a better angler because you'll probably catch more fish.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes swapping out hooks on patterns.
Oh yeah.
Changing weights.
Right.
Sometimes you can't.
I'd
buy
say
certain
too,
weight styles.
here's a weird one. If you're a tyer, don't go insane with your dry fly numbers.
What do you mean?
So I used to for me example, let's talk about sulfur hatch.
Right.
Sure. Pick a hatch, whatever. Okay, I need some emergers, I need some dries, I need some spinners. Man, I would tie so many. And I've been looking at this box, I'm like, why did I tie a dozen of this one dry fly? I don't lose them.
Right.
I don't totally suck at casting. I don't have fish breaking them off because I use decent hooks.
Right.
Maybe
if you catch a bunch of fish on one,
8 of these is probably too many.
Probably. 6 is probably the right amount.
Tie more of what you lose the most. If it's emergers or nymphs, put time into that, not just this row of giant pile of flies you're not actually going to use that much. I'd rather have to retie them the next winter than have flies that last me 5-6 years.
But I think it's important to note too, you're a very good tyer, so you don't need to get the reps to polish your technique. Yeah. But I feel like it is important to note that if you tie a dozen or 2 of a fly, you're not going to fish those next year unless you're throwing them into every cedar tree on the river, you know, like, but it might serve the purpose of perfecting your mastery of that.
And that's worthwhile.
Totally.
It is. Yep. So any other tying tips?
Tying tips.
Hitting
Keep a
tees.
lookout. Little shameless plug here. If you want to try tying, keep a lookout for winter tying nights with yours truly. Thursday nights coming to you this late winter, early spring.
And everyone will be able to hear Joe's voice just as velvety as this in their ears as they learn to tie.
I actually get it right up to everybody's left ear once every class. And tell them no,
shoot.
more thread tension
getting
on
weird.
those wraps. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, please don't let this dissuade
So
you.
intro classes Thursday nights, right?
Yeah, Thursday nights.
Okay.
Yep, we'll do some beginner classes, and then we'll see about the intermediate.
Yeah.
But
If
it's super
you
fun.
want intermediate classes, let us know.
Yeah.
Joe needs to
Yeah,
know
yeah.
if you want intermediate
Because that's always a mystery. You know, everybody does beginners. Seems like people have a good time and learn some stuff, but never know about intermediate. So if you have an appetite for intermediate classes, just let us know.
And we have a lot of I'm not gonna lie, we have a lot of tying tutorials coming.
Great.
I recorded about 20
Holy.
in 3 days.
Good for you.
Yeah, it was great. So I have pretty much the entire winter covered in
Great.
terms of
Good
tying
for you.
tutorials. So we're going to try and have a new tutorial about once a week out for you. If you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening, these will be on YouTube. We'll do little reels of them too. But yeah, kind of fun. I think they're easier to batch record than just try and find time. So
I'm gonna make a New Year's resolution here in late November that I'm gonna do my first tying tutorial for the Northern Danglers.
I've been bugging Joe about this
Yes.
for a long time.
Every time I say, "What the heck?"
You
Do
can
people want to watch me tie?
Well, you can.
We'll figure it out.
You can tie any.
I know.
I don't tie original stuff. I'm just here to help share the flies I think are wonderful with people.
Yeah.
And it's my take on it. A lot of times, I'm not here to take credit for their work because there's very few new things. Right. But these are all platforms you can tweak to fit your situations. And that's what I love about fly tying is you can take a proven pattern and tweak it to the river you fish, the fish you're targeting, and so on and so forth. So
it's so fun.
It's fun. If you haven't done it, we didn't intend this to be a push to you should tie flies episode, but that's where it's at. And I don't care.
Man,
you should.
You should. It's super fun. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's my favorite aspect of fly fishing that isn't the actual
It's fishing without fishing.
shopping for gear.
Yep.
Love it. Organizing gear. Love it.
Tonight,
tying
I'm
flies.
gonna go shop for gear.
number one. I love tying flies.
Well, this has been, a few tips along the road to becoming a better angler. I hope some of these hit home with you. Some of these you can use. Maybe they're just reminders for you. That's fine. That works for us. Yeah. We really, as always, appreciate you listening. Wow, we hit the 1 hour mark.
Hey. It's been a while.
We better cut it off.
Yeah.
I hope everyone has a great holiday season.
Yep.
We really, really appreciate you listening to these. We have fun doing it. Joe's been very gracious helping me do these and, investing his time in these as well. So
yeah,
it's good to have buddies that do these things and goof off. So.
Hey, I'm going to goof off.
So interested to hear what everybody thinks about our hot take. And that's all for me on this episode.
Good luck to you that are still out in the woods chasing things. Hopefully you shoot straight and do well. And just wish everybody's happy and healthy and either getting out in the winter, which you should do, or dreaming of warm days coming your way.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon in the shop or out on the water.
I like that. That was nice.
Hey, that's my usual ending on YouTube. So, yeah. Wham bam.